Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the graded group Mika Clan activity right here. As you see right here on the left, I went ahead and drew some examples right here of a classroom along with some students. And right here on the right, I went ahead and drew right here as an example right here of like an assignment, like some type of a work that more likely that the classroom could be working on. And right here, I went ahead and drew here as an example right here of like say an overhead. If most of us have seen examples of one of those, those projector type of instruments, and I'm like anybody who does, I'm like I guess that knowing that I'm like yeah exactly about what they look like. They have in the classroom that I remember going to, that they had them usually a lot of times on these rolling these wheeling tables, and then they actually use them a lot of times to project any sources of paperwork up on like say on like a flat mat, like projected up on the wall to where it make it a little bit bigger for the class to see it, while the teacher was working on something. Right here's the overhead, and then right here will be, say, some examples right here of some students. And knowing about is like for the graded group, so is that knowing that talking about right here is also stickers that you have right here. I will hand you some examples right here of some stickers, some examples right here of like what you call like some related stickers, as like the smiley face and the butterfly, and then the dragon, and then the thumbs up and down, and then right here will be say is the cat, and then dog, and then along with the dinosaur, and like right here could be an example right here of an insect. But basically though, that if most of us have I have gotten a few papers that so far as the old assignments from those couple years ago, and basically that with the old assignments they could more likely be like what's related to like maybe a science project or a history projects of some sort. But let's just say though that the way I'm going to do some examples right here, and let's just say that maybe I don't know about biology, but let's just say that if it was a certain subject, and I think I have picked like language arts as an example, but that besides like chemistry though, that knowing I'll just go ahead and pick a subject and randomize so for science. If this was like a science project, I'm like talking about the study about rocks. It could be rocks and plants. Rocks, plants, or any other type of study, and they a lot of times that they want you to write a few one or two paragraphs about the study, about the type of rocks and type of plants, and maybe about the temperature degrees or something like that. And you say that maybe that could be a little bit of chemistry study. But the way I would work this right here is to where if this was like what say is an example of some paperwork, and knowing that some teachers that maybe not all of them if we go into like say a higher level of college though, that we may have it to where that some teachers that may place stickers on papers. And I know that I don't know about nowadays, but back those couple of years whenever I was in school, that they used to do that. Like I may have mentioned that before, that they would like place a sticker about right here in the center or off on the right corner, and it could be a lot of times at the smiley face. And that knowing that for the most part it's basically a smiley face, and usually what does that usually mean? And like they show your scores, and then from there it'll be like say is a sticker. And I don't know, I'm like, I don't know if the teachers would have anything to where that they would have like say, you got right here some examples right here of some sticker designs. But let's just say that if they want to go ahead and put like a sticker of a house, and I'm sure like if I say like a barbecue grill or a house or anything like that, knowing about, I'm like exactly about, I guess the whole question more likely is like what are the stickers supposed to be for, and that knowing about whenever we get our papers back, if it's the test results or anything like that, and then knowing about what do these stickers supposed to mean. And I'm thinking though that knowing about that they basically mean that the teachers whenever they're grading the paperwork, that they I guess put those stickers on there, maybe such as a smiley face on there, just to show that, that they kind of know about, just to kind of get to know the students a little bit more about how well that they worked an assignment, that type of stuff. But let's just say that I went ahead and use these, and I don't know, I don't even know if some of these could be what you call against the school policy, knowing about if they put a dinosaur on a dinosaur sticker on any type of paperwork, or anything such as an ant or an insect or anything like that, a spider. I'm like, whenever I drew this, I'm like, I don't know, anybody here will probably say that, you don't need to go, in full examples, but anything that maybe looks real scary, but such as scarecrows or anything like that. But any type of stickers are more likely that we may have seen that maybe on, like, say, on the final grade report, and knowing about that, for what these stickers more likely mean. And half the time that some kids that may say that, really, that they basically mean it's like, for how well the teacher knows you, that if you worked hard and that you turned in the assignment on time. And let's just say that I'm like, anybody, like, well, what do you call a sticker that may mean it's like something ugly? I kind of used it right here, an example right here of a dragon, just to kind of give it, like, say, it's like something such as, if you got a sticker of a dragon, that may mean that it was turned in late and you got too many answers wrong, you didn't answer the questions right, etc., etc., that you were not talking to the classmates, and even if you were not taking down notes, etc., etc. I'm like, you got right here is a sticker of a dragon. And the way I would think about it, though, if we were to get like a sticker, maybe such as a dragon, that knowing that they may say that, like, according to some of the school policies, though, that they say that if you got the dragon, that more likely the dragon would come along and burn the paperwork, and then you would have to redo it. They would come along and snatch it. They would come along and eat it. But let's just say that if we were gotten our grade report back, and then let's just say if the teacher would have put like a sticker of a turtle, like knowing about, really, is this like what you call kind of offensive right here? If somebody were to put a sticker of a turtle on some schoolwork, and if it's anything that's related to maybe the 5th grade, or maybe the 7th grade, or the 12th grade, I'm like, if you're going to be grading any type of papers, and knowing about, with most of the time with any kids, that knowing that the type of stickers that they may receive on their grade report, such as if it's going to be maybe the turtle, or the goldfish, or anything like that. What do these stickers normally, what do they mean? And for most part, in general, knowing about what exactly do they mean. And I'm thinking, though, that it possibly means that the teachers know that you worked hard on it, knowing about, really, does it also mean that if you only scored at maybe a 70 or maybe an 89% on the grade report? And if that's so, then they're going to go ahead and put a sticker from, well, I say, the 3 or 4 choices, such as maybe that they're going to go ahead and maybe put the cat or a dog, and if you score like maybe a 47% or maybe a 52.85%, they say that, no, oh no, we're going to go ahead and put the dragon on there, or we're going to go ahead and put the insect on there, or something, saying that poor job, you didn't study hard enough, or etc., etc. But so far as the grading group Mick, and knowing about right here, you have right here some examples right here of some students. And let's just say I'll go ahead and use right here, you got these pens right here, these writing pens. But let's just say that, if one of these students is like, I went ahead and drew right here, if there was 2 girls on the front, and if this was right here, was an example right here of some students. You have right here, girl right here, and then you have right here are 2 boys, and then a boy right up here. If this class were to contain at least maybe 17 or maybe 18 students altogether, and then you have right here is the teacher. And for the most part, as knowing about that one of them will be taking down notes, and the other one, like nowadays with some students, that one of them could be reading something. And a lot of times, one of my aggravations, though, I guess I can maybe put this right here as an example, maybe of me, or just somebody in general I'm talking about, knowing about that if this right here was me, and And while I was doing my studies, is knowing about that, yeah, the classroom, the class was supposed to be working on a paper. I can go ahead and draw here as an example right here of a paper. They're supposed to be working on a paper that they see something maybe on the chalkboard. Knowing that, I'm like, yeah, if it's anything to do with math studies or anything like that. And then knowing about, if you get stuck on something and all the other students, it seems like that they are all kind of quiet and busy doing whichever that they're doing. And then they are like, that neither one of them are raising their hand. And then you get that feeling to where that, yeah, if I raise my hand, I feel stupid because, they're going to look at me. It's like, what are you stuck on? Well, what's the problem? But, and sometimes, though, if you're going to be tested, when our finals come up, that if we're going to be tested on something, that more likely, though, that there's a chance that, other students that may look at you like, well, you didn't study at all, but anyway, but talking about with most of the time with stickers, though, is that knowing that if we were to be using, like, say, it's like, one thing I did not, draw on here, of course, is like a star. And if most of us have seen this before, to where some teachers do it like this right here, to where they would put like a star, say, for like on a grade report, knowing about, if they could, that 1 star, I guess that could maybe be about maybe 1 point each, something like that, a star. They could put a star. I'm like, we may have seen that a number of times, and we may have seen that more often. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to go ahead and they're not going to put a gold coin symbol on there or nothing. A lot of times it's stars. That if you get a grade, let's just say a 76.51, and if anybody were knowing about, with this right here, to where if you call it, like, say, the decimal fraction, or if it's like just the countdown method, knowing about if an assignment. If one assignment is worth at least 90 points, and then they start subtracting a few points, and some of us may say about, we have some teachers that more likely that they may say that, hey, I'm like, that they may have that habit to where they start taking off points, that even if you do follow the directions, that if they suggest something and then you don't do it, and then they may take off 5 points there, and just like that, and then they only give you maybe they say that, yeah, we'll give you 4 days to do it. We'll give you 4 days to do it. So out of the 4 days, if you like, if they hand assign an assignment to you, like on a Monday, and let's just say that they give you this long, 3 days, and then by that following morning, they go ahead and turn it in. So let's just say that. Go ahead and draw an extra box right here that represents, like, for like 4 days, and then at 3 days they give you 3 full days to go ahead and complete an assignment, and then by the 4th day you're supposed to turn it in at a certain time. So it's like a lot of ways, though, for the timing, and then knowing about for each star that more likely represents. It's like knowing about the steps that you followed just to complete an assignment. And for understanding, though, is that knowing that for most students, though, that they may say that, according to the grade diagram, is that they may take off points just like that, just by saying that, you were not talking to the other students about the assignments, you were not taking down notes, like, you were, besides if you were late, maybe once or twice during the week, that you did not turn in that if it's a certain assignments, such as the midterm, or if it was anything that's related to maybe the final grade, and say the practice assignment or anything like that. And for most time, if we're going to be in the classroom, that maybe not every assignment is going to be graded. That they may say that that according to the classroom policy, knowing that that maybe not every assignment is going to be graded. They say that this is not this is an ungraded assignment, and basically that usually that usually comes for whenever, if we were to actually do the research and the math and knowing about that, for, like, would say, if we were due to studies, that for the most part that any ungraded assignments, more likely they would more likely be asking you about people's feedback, and knowing about, with most of the time, if it's going to be online classes, that if they want to know your feedback, but then sometimes they may say that they are worth points, but sometimes they may say that they're only worth 10 points compared to the assignments. And most of the time, if we could maybe think of it, if we were to do the homework though, of knowing that really for the most part, most assignments, during the week, that they usually say that they may not say all the time, but let's say if they would usually say that with each assignment is worth at least 80 to 90 points. And for knowing about how well you worked the assignment, and then for what you turned in, and as well as knowing about like how well you answered the questions, and then really that your feedback matters, but then that may not reflect your grade, etc., etc. Go ahead and use right here is see here, maybe the black, a little bit of the black for the chairs. So like these will be right here is like the desk, but anyway, but talking about for the most part of like you have right here is like for the class assignments though, that I say for the graded group mix, you're talking about right here of like if most of the time with most students that they would be coming to class, and then talking to the other students, and let's just say that they give you like say a point for asking a question, communicating with the student very performancely and accurately, and knowing that one of those projects were to get in groups to where that each part of the class that were divided into about maybe 2 groups. So there were about 4 students per group. It's like if there was a total of maybe 10 students all together, and they were all divided into about maybe 3 or 4 groups. That each one of them more likely say that you're supposed to be communicating with the other students. If this was an activity game, or if this was anything that was related to maybe a quiz, a pop quiz or something like that, and then they would ask you to where, hey, I'm like, that this student right here is only about, if anything, maybe less than 2 feet away from you, and you're on the same team. Why is it that you're not talking to them, and as well as knowing about? I'm like, yeah, for most of the time with most students in the classroom. And if we would go by say so far that question to where that knowing about that if we come up to that situation to where while we're in class that we may see somebody else's work that we may think that is better than what you performed, and I've experienced that quite a bit, knowing about I look at other students' work, and then I keep thinking about, if it's for the class work that I'm doing, and especially that if it's going to be math skills or anything like that, and knowing about that you maybe see somebody else's work, and you're kind of think, I'm like, that you're not, you may think that maybe you're not ready though, because that from what you understand about the assignment, and then what you look from other people's examples, that you just kind of feel like saying, oh no, I'm not ready, or I just you get frustrated, you don't think you're going to do it right, etc., etc. But on your hand, that knowing about that with I guess what is the whole truth of the matter of knowing about that if it's math or social studies or English or any subjects like that, if we come to the time to where that if a few other classmates in the classroom, they seem to where that they are performing a little bit of the way that they're doing their class work, you may say that it's even better than what you were able to do, and they may say, oh no, I disagree, I like yours better. I like the way that you included, like, which goes like a 1 or 2 paragraph discussion about how the rocks form their different shapes, and knowing about really that for students and teachers, guardians, that if they were to go by saying about that are each student's classwork, are they supposed to look different, or are they supposed to look the same? And they may need to look the same according to what the notes are supposed to be about, such as for 1 or 2 paragraphs. Maybe maybe the language looks about similar, but then maybe the way that they're worded, the way that they're worded may just be a little bit different, from everybody else in the classroom. And I know that some students that may get frustrated because of trying to make it look exactly like this other person's work, but only about from the work that from how you performed, and knowing about that that you include you included a few capital letters on a end of a sentence, or you talked about, you say the rocks, and then you talked about the temperature, raising temperatures, or maybe the type of social, you talked about how this happened, how that happened, etc., etc. Like so far as talk about saying journals, and knowing about it. That I can remember, this was a math class. Anybody, if you go into like any type of math class, that if we were to be taking any type of subjects and knowing about them, any type of assignment that we would be working on in class, we may get frustrated because somebody else's work that may just be a little bit better than everybody else's. That that they get commented and they get complimented about their work, but then you didn't get complimented about yours, and etc., etc. And then a lot of times that the teachers may seem like that's their favorite moment. I know about from whenever that the battle Tago letter, or the Tago war, how you pronounce it is known about. That's whenever that's how the story, I guess the story begins, to where that knowing about that. You have some students that ways of how to get their attention, and knowing about really that if you think that this person's work is a little bit better, but just knowing about you should not cheat. If you want your work to look just like yours, then you're just going to have to study, do your work. But in a lot of ways though, that we may come up to a situation to where after we're taking a test, that knowing that they say that your time's up, and then they take your paper and you say, hey, wait a minute, you're not finished. Like too bad, it is over. Like, well, the time's up, class is over or something. But you didn't make a very good of a grade. And since knowing about with these stickers, with these different stickers, that each one of them could represent something, such as, let's just say, as you have right here is the dinosaur, and I'm like I can go ahead and add right here, go ahead and see here, with the red, go ahead and use right here is the pink. But let's just say that if you have right here is a dinosaur, what does the dinosaur normally mean? That if with the dinosaur, that if you don't turn in your paper, and let's just say the dinosaur basically means like, well, your dog ate it, or the dinosaur got a hold of it, and then that put some prints on it or something like that. But the way I would think about it though, with most of the time with these stickers though, if it's a star or if it's a smiley face or anything like that, knowing that I think that they really mean is like knowing about. Really about it, I guess it's like a type of symbol to where, from how the assignment was turned in, how it was handled, about how it was worked, and for the student's reaction too, is knowing about the steps 1 through 15. The student walked into the classroom, that they read the notes, and then they spent 4 or 5 hours. It took them 2 days to do it, and then by the time they turned it in, the sticker that more likely represents for the time and the hard work that they did, but then they still show that that they did not earn all the 90 points. The 90.70%, they only got maybe a C. And some teachers that may say it, they may write it down such as what you call C. And a C plus, let's just say I could use a C plus right here, a 76.51, I think, is a score I have right here, 76.51, about right here. They would write it more likely like that right there, for like a C plus, and I'm pretty sure, because like an 80% I think would be like a B, and then a 90 would be like an A. But let's just say though that they would put, for a C though, that I don't know if they would put a dog or a cat or a butterfly, but if anything, that they may put maybe you know, like a star, or they may like say that they like a, yeah, smiley face. And a lot of times I usually see a smiley face. I don't know about a dinosaur or a dragon, but let's just say that if the score was a D, then it's possible that I'm like, anybody say that, yeah, that more likely you may get a dragon. I'm like, really, is that what D stand? I'm like, I really don't know anybody. I don't know what. Yeah, I'm thinking that more likely that, you know, that D more likely means that needs needs to if it, you know, I don't know if it means down either. I don't know if it means down either, but I'm assuming that more likely it means that what it calls, like, you know, to this, you know, to you know, for yeah, if we were to pick a particular word, an example for what does D stand for, if we got you know, if our score was 59, was a 59.80 or below, that what does a D usually mean? And more likely that I'm thinking, though, that that it means by that it's like so, you know, a D. A D, I'm like, yeah, D for dog, but I'm like, well, you know, it may take us a few seconds, but let's just say that that you know, yeah, let's just say that let's just say that it means due to study. Due to study. And it could mean maybe something else. I'm like, yeah, that you know, what does, you know, fail usually mean? I'm like, yeah, fail. You know, fail, more, you know, the F, you know, is there really? I'm like, a lot of times we may wonder, though. I'm like, yeah, for an F, you know, if you do fail, I'm like, usually that they may not write on the grade report F plus or an F minus. Usually we don't see that. I'm like, we wonder, well, you know, why is it that we don't see an F plus or an F minus, but then we may see an A plus or an F or an A minus? And I'm thinking, though, that they may say that, you know, well, ain't an F plus as good? I'm like, that don't represent a fail, does it? I'm like, for F plus, F plus, you know, is F plus equal to a fail? And he says, oh yes it is. I'm like, you know, more likely you may get the dragon or the dinosaur. I'm like, anybody say that, yeah, you may get the dinosaur if your grade score is in between these two right here, between a D for the study and then almost, you know, F for, you know, for just like so far for fail mark. But you know, for due to study, and knowing about, you know, if your score is less than what you see for the required, you know, say, you know, to succeed, to move on to the next step, to the next level, say for higher education. And knowing about that, yeah, we ought to think about, you know, yeah, that with our education, we ought to know about, I'm like, really, in order to be able to get into a certain good paying job, you know, for our future, knowing about, we just really have to do our studies. And even if we did, though, that knowing about, I'm like, it's something to work on. And for the most part, that if we're going to be working on an assignment, and then the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, that you know, you follow the directions, and maybe everybody is going to not have what you call like the smooth years, to where that, you know, from their first year of school, that you know, they may have had a number of hours of tutoring and a lot of studying time, a lot of practice time, but just knowing about, really, that I may mention before about talking about is like that, you know, work hard, you know, to stay in, you know, to not give up and then to not quit. And even though if it comes to that situation to where that if we do wind up getting, you know, withdrawn, you know, from class or maybe suspended, I'm like, anybody say that knowing about that, really, it's possible that maybe in another year or two that you may be able to go back, or, you know, maybe not. But let's just say, though, for like for, you know, giving each other credit, you know, for our hard work, and knowing about, I'm like, that way I think about, though, is that if we're going to be in the classroom, and then knowing about that, you know, that let's just say that if we're going to be talking to the other students, and that, you know, each time that we talk to the students may only be worth about maybe 4 points, but then the assignment is worth at least 80 or 90 points. You turn in the assignment, but then now they're saying that according to the grade report, you got your grade report back saying that you talked to the students, but you did not talk to them, you know, too much about, you know, about how the rocks formed, you did not work it out with the other students about the 1 or 2 page paragraph report or anything like that, or maybe the essay, about the essay report, like the essay assignment, or if it was the final assignment or anything like that, that they may mention about a few things that were not completely done correctly, during the class hours, stuff like that. That if you were talking to the other students, and some that may say that, hey, whenever I come to class, I go to my desk and then I start working on my assignments, and some that may say that, that some students that I get there quite earlier than maybe a few students, and then I start working on my stuff and I turn my stuff in and I show good behavior, stuff like that. And knowing about what's the most important part, and knowing about whenever we go to class, and knowing about that, that a lot of times I can tell anybody here, I try to be the first in line to go ahead and turn in my my work, my assignments, and knowing that whatever I gotta do, taking down notes, and still that they may still say that we're gonna go ahead and give you a C, or we gave you a D, or we gave you a B, and knowing about that, even though if you worked on the steps, and basically though that I'm like, that, like, say maybe the teacher's attention, and a lot of times that and I don't recommend anybody that knowing about, I'm like, if you're gonna be in the classroom, and that maybe that if you come, I've had those years too, to where that the teacher that seems like that they don't like the way that that you're doing your work, you're not following the directions, you keep laughing, you're laughing, distracting all the other students, or that you are not bringing the right school supplies, and you're not using the right pens and pencils, stuff like that. You're not bringing your own notebook paper, or you're not you are turning in your assignment, but then you're not following the directions from what I recommend. I'm like, we may have that to where the teachers that may ask us, to do something, such as, I would like you to change something on your classwork, or I would like you to improve your skill on your paragraph writing, stuff like that. Some of it don't make sense, but the way I would think about those is how it's handled. Knowing about that, as they say, you don't need to be you don't need to be talking bad to the teacher, just knowing about, for how well you communicate with the teacher. And it's possible that, for how well you communicate with the teacher and in the classroom and doing your assignment, that more likely, if I say that that's really like the only way, that's like the only way you'll be able to maybe score a B plus or an A, is knowing about, for how well you communicate with the teacher, and how well you spend time working on your assignments and communicating with with the classmates. Anything that more likely that you're doing there in the classroom. But the way I would think about it, though, is that knowing about that for some that may say that I'm like, well, that they were communicating with the other students, but then that the teacher was saying, I'm like, that how do you know that maybe that the teacher misplaced your assignment on purposely, if they decided to put it on their desk, and then they misplaced it. I'm like, that ain't the student's fault. That ain't the student's fault that the teacher misplaced it. But I'm like, at the time though, that I'm sure that happens to why that maybe incidents that may happen with the teachers, to where that they miss some class work, and that they usually say though that I'm like, that it seems like that even though if you turn in your assignments, that don't mean that all you have to do is just wait. That they may suggest that if you want to go ahead and create a, if you're doing your schoolwork on a computer, on an Apple iPod or something like that, like an other than an iPod, that knowing about, I'm like, really, that most of the time with most classworks that they usually say though, it's either on the laptop or a desktop, on any of those devices, to where you create, if whenever you log on, that they create a backup file, to where in case like a rough draft, they call it a rough draft, to where create a draft to where that you save a copy and you give one to the teacher, and then that email, if the tutors even ask to see the assignments, to see about how far you came along so far, that type of stuff. But so far as the graded group MIC, knowing about right here of how well we communicate with the students, and knowing about if we got each time that you talk to a student and they answer a question properly, before the quiz on Friday, stuff like that, knowing about, how well you communicate with the students, that may only be worth about maybe 4 or 5 points. And you would think, though, that, yeah, by the time you get that grade report, it seems like it tells a totally different story. Whenever you study for a test, it seems like it tells a totally different story. But the way I would think about, though, is that knowing about that, they say that, yeah, well, what if they caught you cheating? But what if this matter, that matter, etc., etc. But one thing that I would probably suggest to always remember is knowing about that, yeah, is like to do our best, and that knowing that even if whenever we do fail, knowing that that really about that I may have said it before, but then on your hand too, that knowing about whenever we if we were to be in the classroom, and let's just say, though, that yeah, that by the time we get that grade report, and it may be in that situation to where the teacher even may run out of time to where they're not able to grade everything, and then that's what the score more likely looks like. So I would encourage anybody that knowing about that, yeah, that from knowing that how well class goes is knowing that I'm like, yeah, that if you show up for class and then you do your work like everybody else, but then if we come in that situation to where that problems or situations, or if it's that we may think, though, that yeah, that they ask you a question that more likely that your answer is usually like, hey, I am not an expert. I don't know. I don't know why you're asking me. What do you think this means? Well, why do you think that the rock that changed that melted because it reached that certain temperature? I am not an expert, but a lot of times, though, that I'm sure that they probably ask students that they want them to answer a few questions if there's a right or wrong answer to a question. And usually that they may say, though, that I'm like, really, that from the students' feedback is that knowing about, for how well they answer the question, possibly that they may not be able to answer all the questions correctly, but let's just say, though, that from how well they responded, and then that knowing about, really, that you're not in the classroom to be what you call the expert or the genius. You may have practiced this a number of times, and then you're in this classroom because of the fact about, yeah, in order to be able to get your degree in your study or something like that, and knowing about for what's required. And a lot of students that would maybe argue, they may argue maybe a few times about that they don't like what's required. That what's required is too hard. But on the other hand, that knowing about, I'm like, yeah, they say that don't get too discouraged, is knowing about that, that take it one step at a time, and even if you have to take extra time even on the weekends, and you say that, yeah, but I plan on it's this weekend, my birthday's this weekend, or if it's anything to do with maybe movie nights this weekend or something. But anyway, knowing about that really about what is it that the school and then the teachers are looking for, and more likely that they're just testing the students, though. Well, we may be surprised at knowing about, yeah, from all the hard work and half the time that knowing about the level that more likely to be going, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, I use right here as me. I'm like, anybody probably think about, we would agree that more likely this will more likely be an example right here of me. I might talk about with Matt. I'm like with Mick right here. This maybe maybe look a little bit like me right here. And anybody say that, yeah, if you're going to be in the classroom, that more likely you would probably be talking to the girls. You would probably be talking to the girls and asking their name. If one of them, if there was a student in the classroom by the name of like, would say a certain name, that began with an S or an M or something like that, that more likely, though, that you'd be talking to them and asking them how they are, and what their major is, and knowing about, I'm like, yeah, where are you from, what type of study, like talk about, yeah, talking to the girls. But anyway, I think either this one, or I guess this, maybe you look more like me right here. I'm like, if this was right here was me, and then I would be in the classroom, and then all of a sudden it's like that, yeah, that the teacher wants you do an assignment that's based on, say, work using the overhead. They want you to answer a few questions written on a chalkboard. You don't quite understand them, and all the other students, they're not, with the wondering eyes, they're not wondering about, hey, I'm stuck on something. You're not raising their hand, and it kind of puts you in a spot to where that you kind of feel embarrassed, to speak up for what you're confused about. But I would encourage anybody that knowing about that, half the time whenever we're in class, that we may say that we're mainly concerned about the stuff that we have to do, such as the class work that we got work on, and that knowing about that for whatever work that we get stuck on, is that knowing about that you don't feel like you belong in this group, you don't feel that you belong in this class because of the fact about you don't understand how to arrive at the answers. And for the most part is that knowing about really that they say that we'll give you 4 days to think about it. If you gotta go to a tutor, somebody that will be able to help you a little bit more with understanding the assignment. But they say don't get too discouraged and frustrated over the fact that if you don't understand something, because knowing that there are some students that want to that they say that some students that may break the device, or that they may write a few scribbly lines on their paperwork or something like that, or that they may come to that point to where that they want to they want to rub their hair, or they get real frustrated and they just want to rattle their fingers, something like that, whenever they get real frustrated. But let's just say though that in the classroom they're not really looking for somebody, I guess to say that they're mainly just teaching you. They're testing you and teaching you about the basics, knowing about that, that you may feel like to where that, reminds me of that song to where wish you, like I think Echo Smith, like, I wish I could be like the cool kids. I wish I could be like the cool kids, they seem to fit in. But other than that, a lot of times whenever I hear that song, I keep thinking about that, it reminds me of those couple times that I would show up for either for work or for class, and just thinking about everybody else knew in a classroom about where you had to meet, and then that if there was a test today or anything like that, but then I didn't. I'm like, that kind of leaves me in that spot to where how come nobody told me? But nobody told me about that. But anyway, but there you are. You have right there is like talk about, say, for the graded group coloring activity right here. And I encourage anybody that knowing about, really about what does the score basically mean, is knowing about that we may not get every point, and even if we do, knowing about that really about knowing about is like the work. Try our best to work as hard as we can. Other than communicating with the other students, that they may say though that they would say, what do stickers basically mean? Basically, I guess that's like what you call like a something about with the teacher though. The teacher basically says that they may put a sticker on your form saying that nice work for how well it was turned in, and from whenever they graded it. And sometimes that there may be some teachers that may do it for the heck with it. Knowing about, I'm like, that they put a smiley face on there, and if it's a C plus or C minus, or if you get a D, then more likely it's possible that oh no, they're not gonna like today being Friday, that they're not gonna go ahead and put a happy face on a D grade. They're gonna more likely put say that we're going to go ahead and put the dinosaur or the dragon, and more likely that you're lucky to get a dinosaur. If you score a D on the quiz, you're more likely going to get a dinosaur. And if I say that well, they say it's just a sticker, but like it basically means you got to study. Or anybody say that well, it pretty much means it's like the dragon. The dragon is going to come out and say that they're going to go ahead and say that we're going to go ahead and eat the paperwork. You got I guess they pretty much say that. I don't know if it really means you got to start all over. You got to start all over. But on your hand, that knowing about, I'm like, I can remember whenever I was in school, every time I think about saying that, I'm like, you got to start over. I'm like, you're kidding. Why not? Why do I have to start over? Like start all over. But in a lot of ways, though, that any students that they come to that situation to where, hey, you guys start all over, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna go ahead and start, from where I left off. Like, well, Fred, you lost too many points, or if you don't have the papers, and in order to be able to get those papers back, you may have to start all over, or get some practice, go to a specialist, something like that. But the way I think about it, though, that knowing, say, for the graded group method, knowing about understanding about the whole purpose about the assignments, though, is knowing about that, really, about that from how well we learn, that more likely could, which cause, like, for pay, and knowing about for what, understanding about what could be graded and paid for on its own. But, for learning experience on its own, that type of stuff. More likely anything that more likely inquires, which say grading skills, that could be taught, say on their own. But other than that, let's say the grading group mid-connectivity.